Okay. Okay. Again, just some housekeeping details. Um, Tomorrow I will put the videos up and I'll add you all to the group and you can go back and rewatch them. There are, again, about a dozen books in there you can download. Please don't share them, don't give them away, just they're for you. Um, and they're excellent. They're all excellent. And they're good resources for you. And those of you that have been to seminary and beyond know that these are excellent books, and there's nothing better to have in your library than the finest writers who write and scholars who think. And it's not about getting your questions answered, my friends, because one question is going to lead to 10 more. And each of those 10 is going to lead to 10, and those 10 will lead to 10. And next thing you know, you've got 1,000 questions. You'll always have more questions than answers. And then now this is going to bring me back to Grok. I really want to encourage all of you to use Grok for your theological and biblical research. There at this point, um, I've asked enough to satisfy my curiosity. ChatGPT doesn't have it at all. So I'll tell you a little story here before I get into my talk. It was sometime back when I was going to do the Philippians 2 talk about a month or so ago, and I knew I had a book, and I knew I had read the essay, and I knew the author's name, CFD Mole, and uh, and I wanted to read that. I thought it was important. It had been important to me before, and I remembered kind of what it did, but I really wanted to have that argument back in my head again. I couldn't find it. I'm looking in my library, and I got about 5,000 books here, but they're categorized, so I only need to look in New Testament studies. And I can't find it. I can't find it. I can't find it. And I'm just getting frustrated and flustered. So I went to Grok. I said, "Hey, Grok, I need the essay where CFD Mole does the linguistic analysis on the Greek term harpagmos." 2 seconds later, Apostolic History and the Gospel, a Festschrift for F. F. Bruce, pages. Da, 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 da. And I said, "I know where that book is." And I went and got it. You know, um, I've done the same thing with word studies. Testing Grok. Is it really that good? And he does excellent linguistic analysis. So when you use Grok, make your question specific. So um, let's say you're looking at a text, like, I don't know, make up a text in your head, Mark 5, verse 12. Go to Grok and remember to phrase. So I don't know. Let me try, like, the text we're going to do in a minute, Luke 9:57 to 62. I would say, Grok, give me a critical analysis of Luke 9:57 to 62, but I want a critical analysis. Because if I say, Grok, give me a devotional rendering, that's what I'm going to get. But I want a critical analysis. And then after Grok does that, I might I might notice that as I'm reading what Grok is saying, that there's a word or a phrase I need to go, I need to search more. I might say, what is the semantic domain of this word? Because I want to know other words that could have been used that weren't. So I need to know what a semantic domain is. Or I might want to say, um, how is this word used in Luke's gospel? Or how is this word used in the New Testament? Or that kind of thing. Or I might ask it, what are the theories about the origins of the Pharisees? And you'll get the various theories, some of which I've shared with you today. You can ask your question, just make it a good critical question, and you'll get a good critical answer. So I think you're gonna find Grok to be eminently useful in your education for yourself, because um, it I'm not liking AI because I grew up old school, so I grew up having to be a researcher. I had to read books. I had to remember where stuff was in books. I had to write it down. I had to keep notebooks, and You don't have to do that anymore with Grok. This is the new research method. And I would rather have my friends and students on top of it, riding the crest of this wave, taking advantage of it, and just gaining the knowledge they want to gain without having to spend days and hours, weeks and months reading, 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 unless you wanted to. You know, um, but Grok can give you good book summaries. I mean, just it's stunning. It really is. And translation, good translation. Grok does good translating. I'm really, you can tell I'm very impressed, and it's not easy to impress me. It really isn't. You kind of have to work your ass off if you want to impress me. And this AI did just blew my socks off. So do use it for your study, and I think you'll be immensely and richly rewarded. You might want to know uh, who was John Calvin. It'll give you a summary. Give me a brief biography of Calvin. It'll give you that. What's Calvin's view of the grace of God? It'll give you that. What's the difference between Calvin and the Calvinists? It'll give you that. I mean, it'll give you anything you want, But remember, it's only based on human knowledge, you know. So you're not going to hear it preach the gospel. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, would it then possibly be problematic if you were to ask a question like, did Jesus have to die on the cross?
Yeah. So what you're going to get there. See, the problem with a question like that is it's not nuanced. And so Grok's going to say, there are views in this view, and he'll give you PSA, and he might give you another as alternatives. Um, if you ask Grok, was Jesus the Son of God? You're going to get, there are those who say, that's what you're going to get. You know, Grok isn't going to take a position. Yeah, except for where he's been programmed not to take a position, or she. I don't know whether Grok's male or bi or I don't know what gender to call it. Grok.
Reader.
Klingon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Bill Gates said one of the uh, parts of the job market that's just going to dry up universally, globally, are tutors. We're not, you just, people aren't going to need tutors or teachers like me in a decade. You won't need them. Oh, you won't need them for that reason. You won't need them for information. You'll be able to get all your information through Grok, but we will need human beings for life, for living the way we need. It's Grok can't forgive because Grok can't be sinned against. You know what I mean? And we need to learn how to live in the real world. And so we're still going to need models, to imitate. And I think that's where the next Jesus revolution, I think, is going to be all about what our next talk is. And that's modeling the character of the Father in our lives. So when the world looks at us, they see Jesus, you know? I mean, yeah. So there's that. That's my little spiel on Grok. Did I start recording yet? Yes. Okay. Um, last, I do all of this stuff for free, and there's a reason I do it for free, and that's because I take Jesus seriously when he says, freely you receive, freely give. That doesn't mean I'm not valuable. And I'm only this last few years of my life coming to have any sense of self-esteem. And I think for a long time in my life, I didn't perceive myself as having any value, and that's why I gave myself away. But now I know I'm truly valuable, but it's important to give myself away. That's just fundamental to who I have always been. That doesn't mean that this brother can survive on 1,000-month Social Security check. And that's where gifts and donations are helpful. And one of the reasons that I won't have fees is because I don't want to have to deal with taxes. And so just by gifts and donations, if I'm worth it to people, then they'll share. If I'm not, that's fine. And I know that there are a lot of folks that can't share. They don't have anything. I mean, I was that way forever, and I still loved learning. And I took advantage of everything I could take advantage of. And I hope, and I'm glad a lot of you are doing that too. But I also know that there are folks that have disposable income and they can share. And so I just want to remind folks that this brother's always here. You know? Yeah. And I can't take Zelle anymore. Zelle doesn't work with my bank. And I can only do PayPal and Cash App and cryptocurrencies and that kind of stuff. All right. Let's talk now. I told you at the beginning what I wanted to do today was not so much tell you about Jesus. I didn't want to act like the one who knew him, like others don't know him. I wanted to confess right off the bat that after 50 years, I still don't know him, and I'm just getting to know him. You know, it's like the longest running relationship in my life, and the one that's the most mysterious and beautiful. And I don't know. I don't know how to explain what Jesus is to me, except to say that I would gladly spend 10 more lifetimes easy doing what I did, studying and learning about Jesus before I would do anything else. Um, okay. If the burden of Jesus' teaching in life was the character of God, if that burden also translated in his mission to his identity, that is, his self consciousness, his understanding of himself in relation to this one he calls Father, and he invites us into that same relationship, then it becomes incumbent upon us to ask, well, what does it mean to follow Jesus? What is he calling us to? What is this calling we're all called to? Now, I've presupposed here that we're all called to the same calling, and I believe we are. I think that we may experience that calling differently, to be sure, because we're all from different walks of life with all kinds of different backgrounds and different futures. But there are some things that go across the board with regard to discipleship. Um, the first thing I absolutely have to do, because I would do it every single time um, that I would teach this if I could. And I've only taught on it once before. And this, what I'm going to tell you, this is in the Jesus Driven Life. So if you have that book, you can go, I don't know, I think it's in the third chapter. But it's an insight that once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And it's been with me for forever and ever now, 40 something years. And it comes from the New Testament scholar T.W. Manson, who taught at Manchester University in England back in the 30s and 40s before F.F. Bruce took over. Just for those of you that happen to like pedigrees. And one of the things that he does in his book, The Teaching of Jesus, is to ask about this term disciple, mathetes in Greek. And he takes the parallel passage from Matthew and Luke, where Jesus says, uh, a disciple, where were you, brother? Losing my, here it is. Okay, yes. So this would be Q, if you had a Q source, 14:26. And the parallel is Matthew 10:37. I'll read you the Matthean first. He who loves father and mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take up his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. This is Luke. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and his mother and children and wife and brothers and sisters and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. So here's what Manson noted. Not only are there other differences between the two texts, but Manson noticed that the last line, whoever does not, and then Luke has cannot be my disciple, and Matthew has is not worthy of me. They're very different. Cannot be my disciple and is not worthy of me. Well, how could we have such different translations of the same saying? Didn't we say earlier today that, the tradition was informal, but it was controlled, right? Well, Manson cleared that up when he noted this. If you retranslate this back into Aramaic and you make it one word, shauliach, that's going to be different than breaking it up into two words, shaulia. Okay? Are you with me on this? You can either break it up into two words or you can keep it as one word. If you break it up as two words in Aramaic, you get is not worthy of me. But if you put them together, you get can't be a disciple. And it was precisely this that gave Manson the indication that Jesus' understanding of discipleship did not have to do with what we're doing here today, imparting knowledge. Didn't have to do with that. The term, when it's a single word, sholia, is used in direct contradistinction to the rabbi's term for disciple. So let's say Jesus has a view of discipleship and the rabbis have a view of discipleship. What was the rabbi's view of discipleship? So what I'd like to do is read you it's a good, it'll take about a minute to read a paragraph from Manson. Okay. It's tempting to see in the choice of the word a definite opposition to the whole scribal system. The Talmud of the rabbinical schools is primarily a student. His chief business was to master the contents of the written law and the oral tradition. The finished products of a rabbinical school were learned biblical scholars and sound and competent lawyers. The life of a Talmud, as Talmud, was made up of the study of sacred writings, attendance at lectures, and discussions of difficult passages or cases. Discipleship as Jesus conceived it was not a theoretical discipline of this sort, but a practical task to which men were called to give themselves in all their energies. Their work was not study, but practice. Fishermen were to become fishers of men. Peasants were to become laborers in God's vineyard or God's harvest field. And Jesus was their master, not so much as a teacher of right doctrine, but rather as a master craftsman whom they were to follow and imitate. Discipleship, in other words, Manson says, was not matriculation in a rabbinical college, but apprenticeship to the work of the kingdom. Jesus, if Manson is correct on this, Jesus used the Aramaic term apprentice. He's the master, we are the apprentice. When Andrew and I and others were in graduate school, Our PhD supervisors were our masters. We were the apprentice. If some of you have ever interned at a job, you had a supervisor, you were an apprentice. If you learn a skill, the master teaches you, you copy, you learn the skill, you make mistakes until you learn that skill, and you keep getting honed and honed and honed by the master so that you then can become a master and apprentice others. What Manson is noting is that a discipleship in the gospel tradition has to do with our character, with the way we engage each other, not so much with knowledge. Knowledge is good. Knowledge is useful. Knowledge can even be power. But knowledge doesn't save. So we have this lovely little introduction to Luke's travel log in Luke chapter 9, 57 to 62. It's primarily special Lucan material. There's no Mark material in Luke 9:57 through 18:12 or so. So that's why this text is only in Luke here. But it goes like this. As they were walking along the road, someone said to him, I'll follow you anywhere you go. And Jesus said to him, Foxes have dens, birds in the sky have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Jesus said to another, Follow me. But he replied, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. Jesus said to him, Let the dead bury their own dead. But as for you, go and announce the way God reigns. Yet another said, I'll follow you, Lord, but first let me say goodbye to my family. And Jesus said to him, No one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the way God reigns. We have three sayings. One of the reasons that I like this is it's as close as we're going to get to bringing together Son of God, Son of Man, and Kingdom of God in near proximity. the Jesus reply to the first guy references Son of Man, and way of the reign of God is in the next two replies, but again, not in the same sentence, not together, but yeah, close. So what is discipleship? What is Jesus doing here, and why does he discourage people from wanting to be his follower? So they're walking along the road. This guy says, I'm going to follow you wherever you go. When Jesus replies that the foxes have dens and birds of the air has nests, but the true human has nowhere to lay his head. He's making a statement about the true human being in exile that is on the move. No home, no place to call home, no place to go back to. There's only forward. There's only forward. If you've got a fallback plan, you can't be a disciple. That's basically what Jesus is telling this guy. And when he says to another, follow me, and the guy says, let me bury my dead, Jesus is going to violate significant cultural norms by saying, let your family bury your father. You don't you don't need to have anything to do with it. I have something far more important than that, and that's for you to go announce the kingdom of God. Third, he says, another one says, I will follow you, Lord, but first. He's not like the first guy. The first guy will follow unequivocally until Jesus points out that he doesn't understand what he's in for. This third guy, he says, we'll follow you anywhere, but just let me take care of this first. This is someone who does not yet understand that the way that God reigns is more important than anything else. Just as the second fellow didn't understand that going and announcing the way that God reigns is more important than all the sacred laws and sacred customs and institutions of Judaism with regard to deaths of family members and responsibilities. So, so Jesus here, in talking to these three fellow travelers, is making some significant statements about discipleship. Number one, he's saying if you're going to be apprenticed to me, it's not going to be an easy road. There's no place to stop. There's no place you can go, oh, now I'm home finally. There's none of that. It's this constant moving, this, in a sense, this constant restlessness, this moving forward. There's nothing to go back to. There's nothing to look back to if you are going to participate in the way God reigns. There is only forward looking, there's only the future. The past doesn't matter. I recently came across a wonderful description of Aristotle's view of time. The past is gone, so it's nothing. The future hasn't happened yet, so it's nothing. So we should be in the present, focus in the present, which is neither the past nor the future. It too is nothing. We need to understand that the past is the people in our past, life in our past. It's the past. That the burden of the disciple is to walk away from the past, is to walk away from not just the temporal past of one's life, but the pastness of this whole world order, what Paul calls the stoicheia kosmou, the rudimentary structuring principles of reality that are part of our understanding of what it means for a God to rule, and to move well beyond that into something that it's going to be very liberating, but it is going to be very, very challenging. Now, you might say to me, but Michael, doesn't Jesus say, come unto me, all you are heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and you'll find my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Well, yeah, he does say that. And that's in the context of a conversation about the yoke of the Torah. This isn't. This has to do with something else entirely. Well, what is that something else? He's going to lay it out. Again, we're going to use Mark 8 as our best example of this. After Jesus wants to know if the disciples understand who he is, at least according to the way he perceives himself, and he realizes they don't. They don't get him. The crowds don't get him. He is being misperceived on a grand level. Okay. Um, and this is where he corrects Peter and talks about the suffering Son of Man for the first time. After he corrects Peter, he says this to the crowd. He says, calling the crowd along with the disciples, he said to them, if anyone wants to become my follower, there's a condition. If you want to follow me, there's a condition. What's the condition? You must deny yourself. Deny myself what? Take up your cross. What does that mean? And follow me. Where? So let's look at each of these in their own order. If anyone wants to become my follower, he must deny himself. That is, he has to turn himself down. his wishes, his desires, his expectations, what he thought was going to happen, anything. It's um, to not impose one's will. You're denying yourself. Okay. But why would Jesus say, take up your cross? Is he saying it's important that you deny yourself when you suffer? Is Jesus valorizing suffering? Is he saying, suffering is good and diminishing your view of yourself is good and having a bad self? Is it Jesus encouraging a bad self-image and some kind of um, sadomasochism here? Is that what he's really doing? And the answer to that is obviously no. So what is he doing? When he says you are to deny yourself, this is the same phenomenon that Paul talks about in Acts 2. When God says, don't grasp, deny yourself. Don't grasp. Don't go after that hidden fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Don't do it. Deny yourself. Don't grasp. Take up your cross. Well, if the cross was simply an instrument of torture and suffering, we could see Jesus saying, it's all suffering that you go through is a cross, and that is not the case. You are not carrying a cross when somebody cuts you off in traffic. You are not carrying a cross when you get leukemia. You are not carrying a cross, when thunderstorms flood your basement. Those aren't cross-carrying events. They're suffering. They suck, but they're not cross-carrying. To carry your cross is to behave as the one who did indeed carry a cross. He says, and follow me to death, forgiving them, not counting their sins against them. To deny yourself is to deny yourself the right to retribution or retaliation. To take up your cross is to engage in this constant forgiveness, even to death. Follow me, even to death. The message of the living out of the power of forgiveness is so important here to the life of the disciple. Discipleship, listen, man, you can go read the best theology all day long, but if you can't show mercy, you can't be kind, your theology doesn't mean anything, right? I mean, Paul said the same thing in 1 Corinthians 13. Here, being a disciple means being like Jesus. And what did Jesus do over and over and over and over and over and over and over again to the people that he met? He announced God's forgiveness to them. And he demonstrated that forgiveness through what we call miracles, what we call exorcisms. This is the Jesus is the living demonstration of the Father. Discipleship is precisely sharing in the same spirit that Jesus shared in, the spirit of the Father. So that we learn through time and practice and failure. You're going to fail at forgiveness, friends. Took me decades to even start to get it, and I'm not even sure I get it yet, you know. But when you when you start thinking in terms of God forgiving space, time, and history, and everybody and everything in it, God reconciling the creation to God's self, God not being an accountant, the disciple is the same. So when we need to blame somebody, we're not following Jesus. When we need to join the mob to blame somebody, we're not following Jesus. We're the Satan at that point. We are the Satan. We are not Jesus. We want a God and our leaders and And those that we want these people to be powerful and mighty and interventionist. That's what we want. That's not who the Father is. That's not who Jesus is. That's just not how it works in the real universe. In the real universe, love reconciles. Look, this in today's world, we get a lot of love, right? Everybody talks about love. Conservatives, God's loves the whole world. He gave his only begotten son. The liberals, they'll love everybody that's got different colors of hair and all kinds of different things about them. It's all about love, 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 love. But it ain't love that they're sharing because they hate each other. They can't forgive each other. They're all stuck in that satanic blaming. But they all want to claim that they're showing love. They're not showing love. Love isn't partisan at all. I wish I could communicate to people, first to my liberal friends, that hating on MAGA people is not gospel and it's not Jesus-like at all. And I wish I could convince my MAGA friends that the kingdom of God has nothing to do with Paula White and Christian nationalism. I can't get anybody to see anything. But then again, that's not my job. All I can do is announce the gospel as I see it and try to live it and be as much Jesus in my relationship with people as I can. And that's the best I can do, you know? That means forgiving those that hurt me, praying for my enemies, praying for people that say nasty things about me on Facebook and stuff, you know? Listen, it's not all roses and cream out there. You know, there's a lot of folks that don't like me. They've got their reasons, and they'll happily tell you. But it's not my job. Yeah, Sharon, you got a reason to?
Yeah. Well, Michael, I do find myself challenged with, and I've even prayed for him, but I find myself challenged to be accepting towards Trump, who willfully lies, willfully hurts people. Maybe it's out of ignorance, has never done anything wrong. He doesn't need to be forgiven because he's never done anything wrong. This came out of his mouth. And so I am challenged by it.
Okay. So when you see a person like that, they've never done anything wrong. First thing you know is they don't know who they are or what they're doing or why they're doing it. They're clueless. You automatically know that. They have no self-awareness. Their whole understanding, self-understanding comes from others.
Yeah.
And that's why others become very important, and the approval of others becomes very important, and no dissension becomes very important. He's a very
It's
broken man.
not what they do, right?
Yeah, he's a very broken man. Now, listen, I happen to think there's a lot of stuff he's doing. I like this administration. I don't mind a lot of stuff what they're doing. Frankly, I don't mind at all. There's some stuff I think that's stupid, but we're not going to get into what I think about that because none of that matters anyway. But what I can do is pray for Mr. Trump, and I do. You know, um, the one thing that I ask the Father to give him is what Solomon asked for, and that's wisdom. Our leaders need wisdom. They don't need power. They don't need money. They need wisdom. You know, and I'm happy to ask the Father to give Mr. Trump wisdom. You know, I would have been happy to ask the Father to give Mr. Biden wisdom, but he was already in dementia. I was being mean there. I'm sorry. It is hard. Here's the other thing. I don't know Trump. He's just the president. I don't know Biden. I don't know Obama. I never met these guys, right? I don't have a relationship with them. None of them have ever done anything to hurt me. They may have made policies that affected me, but it's not like any president came after me. But there are specific people out there in Christian land that have come after me, that have hurt me, that have ruined my life, right? Real people. Those are the ones I think Jesus is telling us. Jesus never said, forgive Caesar, you know. He told us to forgive those that are next to us, that are hurting us. Who's the hardest to forgive? Family. Who's the second hardest to forgive? Friends. You know, forgiving the Muslims in Afghanistan that hate America, it's easy, right? Forgiving my daughters or one of my friends for hurting me, that's much tougher. The closer you are to someone, the harder it is to forgive.
Jesus said, if they did this to me, what do you think they're going to do to you?
Yeah. You know, when years ago when I was doing nonviolent atonement seminars around the country, um, in Syracuse, New York, uh, this particular person had come up to my then wife Lori, and Lori came to me afterwards and she said, "You know, I just realized something from what this woman said." She said, "The reason people argue with you about your understanding of the atonement and forgiveness, and the reason they can't hear it is because they have someone in their life they refuse to forgive." And I think that's true. I think that's true. And forgiveness, by the way, and I pointed this out in the Jesus Driven Life, forgiveness is the only theme that you find in every kind of story in the Gospels: conflict stories, miracle stories, teachings, general teachings on discipleship, prayer, um, parables. I mean, forgiveness is that theme that's found everywhere. But we don't know the power of it because we've cheapened it into a little sprinkling of water gets us clean and our sins forgiven, and all we got to do is ask God to forgive us and we're cleansed of our sin, or go to confession and the priest. It's cheap. The actual act of forgiving someone, being reconciled with them, that's hard. That is hard work. But that's what followers of Jesus do. And this is the whole point of the church. The church is the community of people that locally that we're involved with. Okay, so we're going to take care of each other. Good. You've got the almsgiving going. Make sure the widows and orphans are fed, right? We're going to get in spats and arguments with each other. The question is, can we forgive and be reconciled and continue to be one body? And my friends, the history of Christianity, if it is any answer, the answer is no. We
Well,
can't.
there's not enough room in a hell for everybody.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, heaven is a tiny home and hell is the continent of Australia. If we can't forgive, we cannot participate in the way God reigns. If we can't forgive, we're not acting like the true human. The true human is the one who sits at the right hand of the Father, who knows us, who has lived our life, who's participated in our reality, who suffered for it, for bringing this good news. I got good news. Yeah, we're going to kill you. And now we are in that same position. To be a disciple, to live in the way God reigns, as Paul will put it in Romans 5, is to rule or reign in life. We reign in life when we reign like the Father. We reign in life when we reign like the Father. And that's, my friends, where the miracles happen. And that's what Jesus is all about. By his same Spirit today, in each of us and all of us, he seeks to conform us to his image. The Father gives us the Son, this image that we can see, we can contemplate, we can navigate, we can narrate, but we could never conquer. It's not our place to know Jesus. It's our place to be known by him and to learn as much as we can about him because we want to know who this one is that knows us. Who is this one that knows us and loves us and will never leave us or forsake us? And will walk with us every step of the way of our life till we take our dying breath. And then will walk with us through the gates into the kingdom. I mean, this Jesus is amazing. This Jesus is remarkable. And this Jesus is worth loving and adoring and studying and spending time with. And yeah, this Jesus of Nazareth, this historical figure who had such an impact, who left us, uh, his life was so much that we needed four different perspectives.
I love Apostle Paul's admonition in Philippians 3:15 and 16, where he says, if on some things you think differently, that too God will make clear to you.
Yeah,
Just put in practice that which you already know.
that's right.
And once you put it in practice, it nothing happens.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I'm not saying you should look for opportunities to be hurt. Don't. You don't go
No.
seeking them, but when they happen, use them as times of salvation.
But I used to work as a security guard at one stage, and you have to, one of the things you have to learn is to always de-escalate any situation.
Mhm.
Because the moment you try to escalate and use force, you are looking at the potential use of deadly force.
Right.
And that is the last thing you want to do.
Right.
You always want to de-escalate. So in any situation, just
Right.
cool, calm down.
Yeah, and essentially the Father de-escalated the entire world descent into sin and hell by stretching out his arms and saying, "Nail me to a couple of pieces of wood. Let's get this over with. Let's just do it and be done with it. I forgive you. We're going to carry on." And we did. Yeah. I hope this has been beneficial to you guys today. I want to
Yes.
thank you for joining me very, very much.
Thank you.
I want to give anybody that hasn't shared yet an opportunity to share anything they would like to share or questions they might want to ask. So I'll open it up for a moment. If I don't hear from anybody, why, I'm going to get off this sore back and butt and take a walk.
Maybe one day we can talk a little bit about the atonement.
Oh, we're going to do that. I don't know if it's the next seminar. Uh, and I don't know if I'm going to do it in June or I'm just going to wait until like September or August or something. But I am going to do a whole nonviolent atonement seminar for on a Saturday because one of the things I want to teach you is not just the nonviolent atonement part. I want to teach you PSA. I need to teach you PSA. I need to teach you where it came from and its logic so that you can understand how the gospel dismantles it. And
No, it's just completely um, wrong the way it's the people believe it. It's
well,
just
let's put it this
wrong.
way.
That's why we need to trash it out a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
PSA or penal substitution theory, satisfaction theory of the atonement, um, is the anti-gospel. It's the Christian myth.
Completely
Oh,
anti-gospel.
good news. My new book comes out soon. We got the cover art for it, so you know you're at the end when you get the cover art for a book. And yeah, I'll look forward to having you guys all read it and yeah, turn your heads into mush. But anyway, anybody else? Good, good. Okay. Guys, thank you so much. Again, it took me 50 years
You.
to do a seminar on Jesus.
Amazing.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if I get struck by lightning out there on my walk today, you'll know why.
Thank you, Lord.